With the second pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State.
But you know, as they say, hail to the Redskins. Let's roll, man. Let's go.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Luke. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report. Happy Mother's Day to all the great moms out there, whether they're still here or they're not here. They are the backbone of our existence in this entire universe. So thank you to moms everywhere and happy Mother's Day. I told you guys when the schedule was first released, at some point I would come back on and actually dissect the schedule. And it's an exercise in futility. I am very aware of this, okay? These things change. They're very fluid. We don't know what the hell we're talking about. The Redskins could be one of the best teams in the league this year. The Redskins could be one of the worst teams in the league this year. The teams on the schedule, everybody's making a big deal out of the schedule in terms of the playoff teams from last year and the records that these teams had and this, that, and the third. And it's pretty impressive. And if you think those teams are going to be good again, this is a pretty damn tough schedule. And I tend to think certain teams are going to be good. Certain teams I'm not as sure about, but one thing's for certain, this is not an easy schedule. If the teams aren't the same as last year, and that's the thing you can never predict. That's why this is an exercise in futility, but I enjoy doing it. The thing about it is you don't know who's going to be good and who's not. Every year there are 4 teams from the playoffs that made it a year ago that aren't going to make it. And there are going to be 4 new teams that insert themselves into the postseason. Could the Redskins be one of those teams? Why not? Absolutely they could. But I think it's highly unlikely. You look at the schedule, however, I challenge someone, and I don't care who they are, and I don't care what your favorite team's schedule looks like. And I don't know what everyone else's schedule looks like. I just know what the Redskins' schedule looks like. I challenge a fan of another team to bring me a stretch, a 4-week stretch, that's tougher than the Redskins' weeks 12 through 15. If you can find a stretch tougher in the league, I'd like to see it. Because I'm just going to tell you, there aren't many teams that play 3 straight road games against 3 teams that are probably going to make the playoffs or at least be in the discussion at the end of the season to make the postseason. I don't know if there is a tougher stretch on anybody's schedule, 4-week stretch, than what the Redskins have to endure weeks 12 through 15. I'd like to see someone challenge me on that. And in any event, this schedule is a very doable schedule. It's tough, but if the ball bounces, and we talked about this already, if the ball bounces our way, if we stay relatively healthy, if the defense performs at a level that we're capable of, if the offense surprises us and exceeds expectations, we don't turn the football over, we force turnovers, we don't kill ourselves with penalties, all of the things that you got to do to try to win successfully, consistently in this league. If we do those things, we'll have a fighting chance, and we may be able to exceed what many of us think is going to be our win total this year, including me and my win total. But I'm going to assume that we're going to have the growing pains that young teams have with a new coaching staff, and this is a unique set of circumstances this offseason with little to no offseason. There will be no OTAs. There will be no mini camps. I think training camp is going to be abbreviated if there is even a training camp. Preseason is going to be abbreviated. So with all of those things and a new coaching staff, I just think it's going to be tough for this team to maximize its true potential in Ron Rivera's first campaign as Washington Redskins head coach. So with that being said, let's jump into this schedule quickly and break it down. And let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. And I want to start, obviously, with this schedule and week 1. And I'll give you a quick synopsis of why I feel the way I feel about each game. And then I'll give you win or loss. And then we'll move on to the next contest. And then we'll tally it up and let the chips fall where they may at the very end. So we start week 1. home for Philadelphia. I've said this already. The schedule makers are very lazy when it comes to the Redskins because for the third time in 4 years, we're playing the Philadelphia Eagles in week 1. At some point, you'd think that they'd get a little bit more creative than just throwing the Eagles our way in week 1, but that's what they've done again for the third time in 4 years. And each of the previous 2 times we've played the Eagles in week 1, we've lost. I think that this could easily be a loss. And let me say this before I give out any wins and losses. The home and away portion to the schedule and the impact and the importance of that is greatly minimized this year because of the fact there will be no fans in the stands. I truly believe that there will be no fans in the stands this year. And if there are fans in the stands, there won't be the amount that you're accustomed to, and it won't happen until the latter portion of the season. I'm just going to go off the assumption that there will be no fans in the stands this year. And so home and away, outside of travel, which that does matter. You don't sleep in your own bed and those things still are going to be impactful. But outside of that, there isn't really home and away this year. And you know what? For the Redskins, that may not be a bad thing because home games were like road games sometimes any damn way. So you start week 1 home for the Philadelphia Eagles. We almost snuck the Eagles last year in Philadelphia. We're a better team. We're going to be better coached, more prepared in week 1 than we were a season ago. And I'm not shocked at the fact that we almost beat the Eagles the second time at home and back into the season. They were banged up, tremendously banged up, but it didn't matter. We still played a really good game and almost beat them. We almost beat them in week 1. We should have beat them in week 1. And so I look at the Eagles. I say there's no way the Redskins are going to be swept by the entire division like they were last year. And I'll take it a step further. The team is going to want to get this game probably more so than any other game outside of week 16 for Ron Rivera. It's his first game as Redskins head coach. They're going to want to win this game in the worst way. And it's a division game, which makes it count for 2. They're going to go out and they're going to go balls to the wall and they're going to leave it all out on the field for Ron Rivera in week 1. And I ultimately think that amounts itself to a win in week 1. I think we get the Eagles. We should have gotten them last year in week 1. We missed them last year in week 1. We're going to get them this year in week 1. I really feel that. I think they're going to go out and they're going to play their asses off for Ron Rivera because they want it for him. They want it. And usually when the coach comes in his first game and you really like your coach, you want to get that first one for him. I think they're going to do that in week number 1. And then we head to the desert, and that's not an easy trip. That's not an easy game for the Redskins. Never has been, never will be. Don't care how good or how bad the Arizona Cardinals are. It's just tough to go out to the desert. All right, so when you look at that game in week 2, I think about the Arizona Cardinals and all the changes that they've made to their roster and how much of an improved team that they are. They look like they could be one of those 4 teams that all of a sudden was 5-11 last year and ends up being 10-6 and makes the postseason. They could be one of those teams. When you look at their roster, when you look at their coaching staff, when you look at their quarterback situation and all the talent that they've surrounded Kyler Murray with, it just feels like that's a team that could be really good this year. With that being said, I feel like this defense is really going to harass the hell out of Kyler Murray. If they know what's good for them, they'll get it out of his hands quickly because I fully expect this defense to be fast and free-flowing all over the football field and really harassing the hell out of an undersized Kyler Murray to the point where you may get a couple of mistakes from him. He may think he can run away from defenders like he usually can. He's not running away from the likes of Montez Sweat and Chase Young and company. And he's going to end up with a couple of 8- and 9-yard losses that just take them out of any kind of manageable third down and distance. And I could see the Redskins heading over to the desert and coming away with a victory. And that's exactly what I see happening. I see the Redskins finding a way to come out of Arizona with a victory. And look at that. Off to a great start, 2-0. You're feeling good about yourself. Maybe things have changed with Ron Rivera as head coach. Or maybe not. As we head off to the road again, this time We're at the Cleveland Browns, our first time playing outside of the conference in the 2020 season. I think the Browns are going to be a lot better than they were last year. Remember, I did not believe in the Browns last season. I believe in the Browns this year. Why? Because I think Baker Mayfield's ass was humbled last season. His ass, he was smelling himself. Boy, did he stink. He think that he didn't stink. His shit did not stink last year. And I told anybody that would listen, he's going to be humbled. His head coach was going to be humbled because he was smelling himself as well. He should have never been hired in the first place. Greg Williams should have been their head coach, but that's nor here nor there. They wanted to go with an offensive-minded guy to pair up with Baker Mayfield, and Baker wanted him, and those two were a match made in heaven for each other because both of those guys were egomaniacs that thought that they were the best thing since sliced bread, and both of their asses were humbled in a massive way last year. Well, I think that's going to serve Baker Mayfield well. I think they got the right man for the job now in Kevin Stefanski. He's a low-profile guy. He's just going to come in there and try to do his job. They've tweaked the front office. I think it's a much better working environment in Cleveland than it was a season ago. And I think that's going to make for a much better football team. Thus, I said all of that to say this. I think the Redskins go to Cleveland. They're going to have a shot to win the game. If they do everything right and they give themselves a shot, they could easily come out of Cleveland with a win. I just don't see that being the case, though. I think they go to Cleveland. They fall to the Browns for their first loss of the season. And that kind of sets off a chain of events that sends the Redskins into a bit of a tizzy here, if you see where I'm going with this, as we head back home for what will probably be one of our tougher matchups of the season. I do think the Ravens are going to be good. You know, there are certain teams where you go, I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year. The Ravens aren't one of those teams, okay? There's certain franchises where you just look at them and you say, they're going to be good. Even if it's not good enough to qualify for the postseason, they're going to be good because they're good every single year. I don't know what John Harbaugh's worst record in Baltimore has been, but I'd like to think that it hasn't been any worse than 6-10. He's usually hovering around 8-8 at worst, and generally they're a double-digit win team just about every year. They find a way. It doesn't always amount to being pretty. It's not always aesthetically pleasing, but they find ways to get it done. And they're really good. They're just really, really good. They've got some turnover on the defensive side of the football. It doesn't matter. They can score points with the best of them in this league. And I just don't see the Redskins, even though I'm not afraid of Lamar Jackson with the team speed we have defensively now. I'm still not comfortable with going against the Baltimore Ravens, especially with all the speed that they can put on the field offensively and all the things they can do with their weaponry at the tight end position, at the wide receiver position, and then Lamar Jackson adding himself into the mix as a runner. It just all spells trouble for the Redskins in this defense. And by the way, the Ravens usually are quality defensively themselves. I see that as a tough one for the Redskins to get, and I see it being a loss for the Redskins as they even their markup at 2-2 after starting the season off 2-0. You then stay home the following week for the Rams. Sean McVay coming back home to Washington for the first time since leaving to become the Rams head coach. Should be an interesting matchup. They're one of the teams I'm not quite sure of. I don't think they're going to be a bad team. You know, Sean McVay's worst season in LA was last season, and they were still 9-7. So I don't think they're going to be a bad football team. Was it 9-7 or 8-8? Either way, I don't think they're going to be a bad football team. I'm just not sure that they're going to get back to the level of dominance they had in the first 2 years of Sean McVay. The league made an adjustment to McVay. Will he make the adjustment to the adjustment that has been made to him? We'll see. I just know this. Sean McVay is going to come into Washington. He's going to be well prepared for what the Redskins are going to do on the offensive side and the defensive side. He's going to have his team ready to play. And it's just one of those situations where they're just better than us. I just think that's going to be the case. They're going to come in here. We're going to compete our ass off. If we can get to Jared Goff, which isn't out of the realm of possibility, we have a shot to win that football game. But if they do the things that they've done to become successful in this league over the last 3 years, they'll be able to come into FedEx and leave with a W, and I think that's going to be the case. Redskins fall to the Rams. Very winnable football game, as the Browns game is. but I just don't see them winning, and that's the growing pains of a young football team. So you then go to week 6 at the Giants, at the Meadowlands against the Giants, and this is a very winnable football game, folks. I'm not impressed by Daniel Jones. I've already stated this. I went on a mini rant on Thursday night talking about the Giants and all the primetime games that they've gotten and how people just perceive the Giants to be so much better than the Redskins. Why? Because they think Daniel Jones is going to be good. And maybe he is going to be really good. And maybe he is going to be better than Dwayne Haskins. But bottom line for me is we just struggle in New York. We just do. Even when we win, it's not pretty. It's usually gritty. It's tough, hard fought. I just don't anticipate the Redskins beating the Giants in New York. Again, it's a very winnable football game. If we beat the Giants, it's going to be at home. And that's just the way I see it. And like I said, home and away, not going to make that big of a difference this year. But I just don't think we're going to go to New York and win. We just, for some reason, we don't play really well there. Of all the places in the division on the road, it seems like we have some of our worst games in the division on the road in New York versus the Giants. So then we head to our final game before the bye week versus the Dallas Cowboys. And there is no game on the schedule, I want, as a fan, more than this one here. Last year, the Cowboys swept us. I do not like being swept by the Dallas Cowboys. That is an understatement. And I'm not really saying much. What Redskins fan does enjoy being beaten, let alone swept by the Dallas Cowboys, or hell, any team in the division for that matter. But it kind of stings just a little bit more when it's the damn Dallas Cowboys that beats us twice. And they gave us a sound thrashing at their crib at the end of the season. I really didn't mind that game. Could care less. At that point, I was really more concerned with securing and locking up Chase Young than anything else. But at the same time, they came into FedEx last year. We fought hard for a half and then were systematically taken apart in the second half of that game. It felt really good. The last time we beat the Cowboys, it felt really, really good. It did. And it was, again, a game that we made a lot tougher than it needed to be. We dominated that game on the defensive side of the football, and yet it came down to a field goal on the final possession in the waning moments that decided the victory for us as they missed the kick. I'd like to feel that again. And if we're going to feel that feeling, it's going to have to come at home versus the Cowboys because we're not beating them on Thanksgiving. So with that being said, I want this one bad. I think the players are going to want this one bad. And I think we get this one versus the Dallas Cowboys heading into our bye week at 3-4 on the season. Not bad. Not bad at all for the beginning of the season for a team that's supposed to struggle and be one of the worst teams in the league. That's not a bad start to the season at 3-4. And it could easily be 4-3. It could easily be 5-2 if the ball bounces our way and we play clean football, stay relatively healthy. You could beat the Cleveland Browns on the road. You could beat the Giants. You could beat the Rams at home. You could end up, and you could lose some of those games too. You could lose to Philadelphia week 1. You could lose to the Cardinals on the road. I mean, let's not act as if the ones that are wins are locked in wins. So I think 3-4, any way you slice it, is right around where the Redskins are going to end up heading into the bye week. You come off the bye and you get the Giants in week number 9. And that's the one that I feel like we should be able to get against the Giants. They get us at home. I think we exact a measure of revenge. And you know what? Even though I was rooting like hell for the Redskins to be competitive but ultimately lose in week number, I want to say it was week 15 last year, the game against the Giants in which Dwayne Haskins started out the game, I think it was week 16 we lost to the Giants last year, where Dwayne came out of the gates like gangbusters and couldn't do any wrong. That one hurt. I wanted to lose the game, don't get me wrong. But to see Daniel Jones throw 5 touchdown passes, including a dagger in overtime, that shit hurt. It hurt immensely because I can't stand Daniel Jones. I've taken a strong disliking to Daniel Jones. And I'd like to see the Redskins be able to beat Daniel Jones at some point. And at this point, he's 2-0 versus us. Going into that game, he'll be 3-0 versus the Redskins. I'd like to put him down And I think this is when the Redskins get to do that, and Dwayne gets his first win against the guy that was drafted over him in the 2019 NFL draft. We go on to Detroit. We go on the road. Haven't been on the road in 3 weeks now, so this will be our first time heading out on the road in almost a month. And the Lions await. And look, this is a very winnable game. Lions were a team we beat last season, so what's to say we can't beat them again this season? However, there was no Matthew Stafford last year, and we struggled in that game and barely won that football game. That being said, I expect Matthew Stafford to be healthy at that point of the season. We'll see. He's been dealing with some things. But if he's healthy, the Lions are circling this game on the schedule. They are looking at the Redskins like food they want to eat, okay? And they are looking, just like I talked about looking for revenge from last year, they're looking for revenge from last year. We beat them last year. We weren't a good team. That was embarrassing for them. And so I think they're going to give us their best shot, and it's going to be on the road. I've always said that playing in Detroit is the equivalent to taking Ambien. They put you to sleep at Ford Field. Is it even called Ford Field anymore? It's one of the more dark and dreary locales in all of the NFL. The worst place to play used to be the Edwards Jones Dome in St. Louis. It was so dark in there, it put you to sleep. The Lions have now taken over that crown as the one of the more sleepier places to play. And I think we're going to go in there, we're going to sleepwalk, and we're going to get our asses beat. And so we lose to the Lions. But then you get a nice little bounce back game the following week. And I feel really nasty for saying that. I feel like I'm dirty for saying that we get a bounce back game, as if we are good enough to look at anybody as a bounce back game. I feel really, really disgusting for even allowing those words to come out of my mouth. But I look at Cincinnati and I say, look, there aren't many teams in the league that I feel like are supposed to be worse than us. But I think the Bengals are one of them. And I think Joe Burrow will make a difference. And I think they will be exponentially better in 2019 or 2020. But they still have their issues on their football team. They still got a ways to go. And so that's a game at home. Joe Burrow, rookie quarterback. They're going to play up the whole number one versus number two thing. Yada, yada, yada. That's cute. That's fun. At the end of the day, I look at Cincinnati. I'm like, look, I don't know if we're going to beat many teams in the AFC North. As a matter of fact, I don't think we're going to beat any of the teams in the AFC North outside of this one. And so if you're looking to not get swept by the AFC North, this is the team you probably need to beat, okay? Last year, we were swept by the entire AFC East outside of Miami. We took care of the one team that absolutely stunk in that division. If we want to avoid being swept by another AFC division, we're going to have to do the exact same thing we did last year by taking care of the one team in that division that absolutely stinks. That being the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think we take care of them. And so let's look at the record going into Thanksgiving. Short turnaround versus the Cowboys on Turkey Day. Not looking forward to it. But let's see where the Redskins are at this point. The Redskins are 5-5 going into this game against the Cowboys. So right there, week 12, Redskins dead in the heat of the playoff picture. When they put up in the hunt, the Redskins are right there, and that is depending on how the division's doing. If the division stinks, the Redskins could be at the top of the NFC East at 5-5. Last year, that would have been good for like first place and clear of everybody else by about 2 games. The division was so bad last year. So I don't know what the division is going to look like. I can just tell you this. 5-5 will put you in the hunt going into week 12. When they put up the little chyron for the playoff picture, we'll be squarely in the hunt. We'll be right there. All right, if not a wild card at that point. All right, this is when the season gets put to bed. All right, any hopes of the Redskins making the postseason, any hopes of the Redskins being a competitive team down the stretch and maybe eking their way in, or at least having a shot to play meaningful games down the stretch in weeks 15, 16, and 17, get put to bed starting with week 12. And I told you that this was going to happen. And I challenge anybody out there, bring me your 4-week stretch that rivals this. Bring me a 4-week stretch of football that looks anything, smells anything, feels anything, looks anything like this. It starts with a short turnaround on Thanksgiving on the road at Dallas. You already know how this goes if you're a Redskins fan. Until we get good, and when I say good, I mean good enough to win the division. Until we get good, we will not beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. All right? We're 1-7. And I remember the one. We all remember the one. Okay? Man, was that gratifying. Still one of my favorite Thanksgiving memories to this day. All right? 2012, I'll never forget it. That's not happening in 2020, though. We're not going to Dallas, and we're not going to win, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of them putting us on Thanksgiving, ruining my Thanksgiving day with a game against the Dallas Cowboys. I would prefer them leave us out of Thanksgiving matters, if at all possible. It's the one game that we have. Technically, that's a primetime game. That's not a primetime game because it's not in a primetime window. But for all intents and purposes, that's the NFL's way of saying, hey, we got to put every team on Thursday. This is your Thursday game. Get out of our face. And so then you get a long layoff between the Thanksgiving Day game and then the next Sunday that you play. But it's still on the road, and it's still at Pittsburgh. And I can't tell you the last time we won in Pittsburgh. It's been a long time. I'd venture to say that probably came sometime in the 90s. It's been a long time. Hell, when's the last time we beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the regular season? That's probably been quite a long time ago because I remember when we won the division in 2015, the Steelers, they gave us a rude awakening that opening game of 2016 when we thought we were going to be really good. Antonio Brown was twerking on us in the end zone. Man, was that a rough one. That was an ass whooping of epic proportions. We've had quite a few of those on primetime television at home. That was pretty brutal. I remember going to to Pittsburgh and us trying to trick play with Robert Griffin III back in 2012 in his rookie season, and us trying to throw a pass to him. And I want to say it was Ryan Clark just lambasted him. Oh my God. It was another beating at the hands of the Steelers in Pittsburgh back in 2012. 2008, we were probably, I remember 2008 very vividly. And I hate going down memory lane with you guys, and I'm going to stop here after this one. But 2008, remember, we were good that year. That was the first year of Jim Zorn. God help us all. We were 6-2, I believe, or 5-2 going into that game, whatever the case may be. I want to say we were 6-2. And it was a Monday night game at home. Jason Campbell was playing good ball, and we were feeling good about ourselves. Little did we know the bottom of our season was about to drop out, and it started with that Steelers game on a Monday night. Man, was that brutal. The Steelers fans came in with their terrible towels. They took over, and they proceeded to pretty much wipe our asses with those terrible towels on our home field. It was quite embarrassing, as it usually is when we play the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't anticipate this being any different. It's another loss, guys. As we then, if that wasn't bad enough to go to Dallas on Thanksgiving and then go to Pittsburgh the following week, they said, no. You stay on the road for one more week. 3 straight road games against 3 teams that are more likely than not, at least 2 out of the 3, are going to make the postseason this year, okay? They're going to be good teams. The Steelers are good. Even with their 3rd-string quarterback, they still were threatening to make the postseason, and if not for a tough stretch at the back end of the season where they lost like 3 in a row, they're going to make the playoffs last year. The Steelers are going to be good, okay? We got to go to the team that represented the NFC in the Super Bowl last year. And we're going to go visit Trent Williams and Kyle Shanahan, a couple of our old chums up in Santa Clara. That's not going to end well for us. That's not going to be pretty. That's a loss, guys. That's 3 in a row. So what was once 5-5 is now 5-8. And just when you thought, we can breathe a sigh of relief, we can relax, doesn't it feel good to be home? The NFL says, not quite. They said, we're going to treat you like Hurts. Not exactly. We're going to send you home, but not quite the consolation prize you were looking for. It's Seattle. And although we've had some success against the Seahawks, like a couple of years ago with Kirk when we had no business going there and winning, that's not this, okay? And just like we talked about measures of revenge, don't think that the Seahawks don't want a piece of revenge. That was a really bad loss to us that year. That was a fun game. That was a nice win, and that was probably Josh Doxson's crowning moment as a Washington Redskin, that diving catch down to the 1 yard line, and us somehow going into Seattle undermanned and winning. Not happening this time. The Seahawks are going to come in, and they're going to go out, and they're going to leave with a dub. 4 straight losses. Again, it was fun. It was a cute story. We were 5-5, and Rivera had this thing turned around in his inaugural season as Redskins head coach. And then the NFL schedule makers put us down. They took us out back. They said, oh, man, you had some good times, but I got to put you down. And they put 2 in our butt, put us down nice and easy, man. Put us out of our misery quick, fast, and painless. All right? So now it's the Ron Rivera Bowl in Week 16. Just like Week 1, when the players wanted it bad for Ron and they went and got it, they're going to want this one really bad for Ron. And Ron's going to say it's just another game. He's going to give us the coach speak, yada, yada, yada. That's cool, Ron, but we all know the truth. You're going to want this one, and you're going to want it bad. And he's going to make it known that he wants it. Maybe not overtly, but the players are going to sense going into that game that Ron wants this one bad, and they're going to get it for him. They're going to go out, and they're going to take care of what's going to probably be a pretty damn bad Carolina Panthers team this year. So I anticipate that they'll take care of business in Week 16 versus the Carolina Panthers. And in Week 17 versus the Eagles, I think the Eagles are going to need this one, whether it's for the division, whether it's for a wild card, whether it's for positioning in the playoffs. One way or another, they're going to need that January 3rd, Week 17 tilt versus the Redskins at home. We'll be playing for absolutely nothing but pride at that point of the season. We'll compete our asses off. We'll give them a run for their money. But at the end of the day, they're going to need that one. And we've already beaten them once. I'm not going to be greedy. I'll take my one from the Eagles in my season split with every team in the division. And thus, we finish up the season at 6-10. As I told you guys, this is a 6-10 ball club. This could easily be a 7-9 team. You look at the schedule. You can beat the Lions on the road. You could beat the Browns on the road. You could beat the Rams at home. I mean, there's some games in there that you look at and you say, why can't we win that game? We can beat the Giants on the road. Why not? But guess what? There's some wins in there that you could also lose. You could lose to the Eagles at home in Week 1. You could lose to the Cardinals on the road in Week 2. You could definitely lose to the Cowboys at home. We do it all the time, okay, in Week 7. So just as I say that there are games we can absolutely win, there's also some games that we could absolutely lose that I have as wins. And we could lose to Cincinnati for all we know. Again, we don't know what the Bengals are going to be. Bottom line is, when it all settles, the dust settles, the smoke clears, and when it all balances itself out, this is a 6-win team. And I don't really care where the 6 wins come from outside of the division. I mean, in the division, I do care where they come from. I want at least one from everybody. All right. I don't want anybody sweeping us. I don't want anybody feeling like they own us. I don't want anybody putting together any long streaks, because a sweep by any team in the division means they've swept us 2 years in a row. All right. Which means that's a 4-game win streak. I don't want any of those carrying it into 2021. All right. Let's put those to bed this year. Let's get one from everybody in the division and make sure that we're not allowing any dominance to be to start to creep in to anybody's mind in the division, that we own the Redskins. Let's put that to bed right now. So 6-10, 3-3 in the division is my final mark for this football team. And let's hope that I'm wrong and that we're actually a better football team than 6-10. So I do see some super chats. I'll read those super chats. We'll get to those quickly. And then we'll be on our way. So let's knock those out. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. King of the North writes, how big of an advantage do the Eagles have as the only team in the NFC East with a returning coaching staff? I think that makes Week 1 a tough one. Absolutely it does. I think that's going to be a struggle for every team in the division. But this is my thing. and this is the only reason I gave the Redskins the win in week 1, is because I look at the Eagles game, and the Redskins are they may play the hardest they play all season in week 1. Outside of week 16, I think they're going to play their asses off in that one for Coach Ron Rivera as well. But week 1, anytime you have a new coach, you want to go balls to the wall. That's why when you see teams fire their head coach, that very first game with the new interim head coach, it's usually a guy that they promote within. The players usually love that guy that they promote. That's why they promote that guy. And they usually go balls to the wall, and they go and they want to win. And they're so happy when they get that win for that head coach, that interim guy. It's that first game. Remember when the Dolphins fired Joe Philbin and they won? And they won for Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell didn't know what the hell was going on. He didn't know if he was coming or if he was going. He didn't know what the hell was going on. But they won that first game for him against the Titans on the road. All right, they went and got that game for him. Why? Because you always want to win that first game for that guy. I think the Redskins are going to do the same thing for Ron Rivera. They're going to go balls to the wall. And yes, the Eagles do have a distinct advantage because they're the only team that did not make wholesale changes in the offseason to their coaching staff, to their roster, this, that, and the third. But I think the Redskins are going to go in highly motivated that they want this one from Ron Rivera, and I think they're going to get it in week 1. But you are absolutely right. The Eagles do have a distinct advantage because of the fact that they were the only team that did not make a coaching change this season. And so their staff is entirely intact. They were the team that won this division last year. They're the team playing with the most confidence. It'll be interesting to see if that does bode well for them out of the gate, and if they are able to take that and manifest it into a win in week 1. I think the Redskins will be able to hold them off. Got another super chat. This one from John Saluter. Thank you for the super chat, John Saluter. Greatly appreciate it. He writes, I really like Holcomb. I think he could take a big step this year. A lot of people slept on how well he played last year. I love Cole Holcomb, man. I thought he played really, really well. He was one of the few beacons of light on this defense that was just putrid a season ago. And Ron Rivera has not slept on him. He's one of the guys that Rivera continues to mention when he talks about versatility and guys that he likes on this defense. Yep, he talks about the defensive line all the time, as he should. But he also mentions Cole Holcomb every opportunity that he gets. So I know that he likes Cole Holcomb. I know that he likes Cole Holcomb's versatility. And so do I and many Redskins fans out there. And I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be one of the 3 guys starting on the defense. Don't know exactly whether they like him as a Mike or they like him as a Will. But I think he's going to be starting at one of those 2 positions when the season starts. I think you're going to see Cole Holcomb as a guy that has versatility, that can move around. And I think they're going to utilize his abilities on the football field and his versatility to be a little diverse. I think you're going to see him when they start going to nickel packages and there are only 2 backers on the field or only 1 backer on the field. I think Cole Holcomb may be that guy. We'll see. Thank you for the super chat, John Saluter. Rob Yu. Thank you for the super chat, Rob Yu. Greatly appreciate it. My man Rob Yu writes, okay, Lou, I see you with Sunday afternoon stream. Yes. He says, think our D will impress, but who is going to protect Haskins' blindside week 1? It's interesting. Jason Peters isn't ruled out. I still think he goes back to Philadelphia, but he's not out of the question, okay? He's still in. I saw a couple videos of him working out this weekend, and he said he's open to going somewhere other than Philadelphia. I think he still wants to go back to Philadelphia. I think there's mutual interest there. We'll see what happens, but don't rule Jason Peters out. Obviously, Donald Penn is still an option. The Redskins have him on speed dial. And then there's still the curious case of the Redskins' 4th round selection. A guy with 2 first names that I do not trust, but you never know, man. You know, Charles could end up being the guy, you know. And if the Redskins are confident in his ability to go out and hit the ground running week 1, he will be your starter. You know, we'll see what happens. I don't think it's going to end up being any of the guys that they signed in the offseason or anybody like Jerron Christian or any of those guys. I don't think it's going to be, you know, Cornelius Lucas or anybody like that. I think it's going to be Charles. If they decide to go outside of the roster as it's constructed, it could end up being either Peters. I think it's a 2-man race outside of the organization in Peters and Penn. If it's not one of those 2, I think it's going to be Charles that gives us a chance week 1. But very interesting question. I mean, what does the entire left side of the line look like week 1? That's a real big question because left guard, even though I still wholeheartedly believe that job is going to belong to the Redskins selection last year out of Indiana. Thought he played well when he got an opportunity in Martin. And so I think he's ultimately going to be your starting left guard. And I think when it's all said and done, Charles is probably going to be your starting left tackle. It's going to be a young left side of the line, but they're not short on talent. So Wes Martin at guard, and I think you're going to see Charles at left tackle. But it is a very compelling question, one that we do not have the answer to right now. Thank you for the super chat, Rob Yu. Hashtag Hamdale. Thank you for the super chat. Hashtag Hamdale. Greatly appreciated. Who writes, I'm excited to see Riverboat's Ron's influence on this franchise. Keep up the good work, Louis. THTTR. I'm excited to see it as well. We've already seen glimpses as to how he's impacted this franchise by getting rid of some guys that did not want to be here. Obviously, moving on from some of the staff. We've seen his impact already. He's in control. All right. We've seen that already. He's in control. If you read the story written by Albert Breer in SI about the trade of Trent Williams, he pretty much laid out the way that situation unfolded and how Ron Rivera's in charge. He's running the show, and that's good to know. And he's already come in and made wholesale changes. He's definitely running the show, and I think that the players believe. You know, I'm listening to Jonathan Allen speak, and he's talking about the difference between the old regime and what he's already feeling and the vibes he's getting from Ron Rivera already. You're seeing a mentality shift and a belief change in these players. They feel like, Dwayne even penned it in his letter where he says, you know, this feels different. You know, we feel like we've got a chance now. I think that's the Ron Rivera effect already, you know? So, thank you for the super chat, hashtag Hamdale. Jordan like the GOAT. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. Jordan like the GOAT says, the first three could go either way with the new coaching staff. Short off season. I wouldn't be surprised if we went 0-3. The virus might be our undoing. Absolutely. We could go 3-0 to start the season off. We could go 0-3. Absolutely. You know, I've seen publications that have the Redskins starting off the season 0-5 just like last season. All right. That's not out of the realm of possibility. You know, if we don't get one of those two road games versus the Browns and the Cardinals, all right, if we don't go to Arizona in week 2 or to Cleveland in week 3 and win one of those games, conceivably, the Redskins could start the season 0-5 because the 3 home games are the toughest to start the season. The 2 games that you feel more confident about, to me, would be the ones on the road. You know, the one against the Eagles, just because it's family business and all bets are off, I feel like we can get that one and they're going to want to get it for Ron. But that's not going to be an easy game. The Eagles are a much better football team than us. So, you know, I feel like the Cardinals, roster-wise, probably better than us. But I think our talent is good enough to go there and get a win. You know, same thing with Cleveland. You know, they got a bunch of talent on that team. They're way more talented than us. But I think our talent is good enough to give us a shot on the road against Cleveland. But when you look at us against the Ravens the following week coming home and the Rams and then the Giants on the road and then the Cowboys at home, if you're not careful, if you don't avoid a couple of landmines, you're 1-6, 2-5. God help us all if we're 0-7, it's not going to happen. We're going to win a game or 2. And I just don't see us being that bad. So absolutely, you're right. The Rona could be our undoing. We could come into the season ill-prepared. And everybody's dealing with the same thing. We're not the only ones. All right. Everyone's dealing with a shortened off season. Everyone's dealing with their changes that they have. And, you know, we have a shot. You know, the Browns have a coaching change just like we do, you know, in week 3. The Cardinals, they got a second-year head coach. They got a bunch of turnover, you know. You know, so why not? Why not be able to win a couple of games? But you're absolutely right. This could turn ugly very quickly if we're not careful. The only thing that gives me confidence is that we got a coaching staff that's going to have us better prepared than in previous seasons. Thank you for the super chat, Jordan, like the GOAT. Got Got another super chat. This one from Rob U. Double up. For my man Rob U. Thank you for doubling up. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U, who writes, Ryan Anderson showed a little something last year. Starter? I don't think he's going to start, but I think he's going to play a ton. And I talked about this, I think, on Thursday night. And we're going to have a real discussion about the roster, what we think is going to happen, who's going to start, who's going to play a lot. We're going to have that discussion down the road. But Ryan Anderson is one of the guys that I think did show a lot. And I talked about that. I think he was one of the more impressive players. And if you made a short list of most improved players on this roster last year, Ryan Anderson would be on a very short list of guys that really improved their game last season. Thought he did some really good things. And so Ryan Anderson, I think, is a strong side backer. To me, he looks the part, the quintessential strong side backer in this league. And I think initially they're going to probably start Thomas Davis at strong side backer. But I think you're going to see Ryan Anderson. The way I envision this thing is strong side backer being Thomas Davis, inside backer being Cole Holcomb, weak side backer being Reuben Foster. That's how I envision it. Now, they may envision Reuben Foster as a middle backer and Cole Holcomb as the weak side backer. Either way, they're interchangeable, I believe. Which guy do you trust to communicate with the defense? I heard, I can't confirm nor deny this, that Reuben Foster struggled with that in San Francisco. And if they feel like he's not equipped to be the leader of the defense, the guy with the green dot on his helmet, then you just give that job to Cole Holcomb. We know he can handle it. So either way, I think those are the three guys that start. But that doesn't mean that Sean Deion Hamilton isn't going to find his way onto the field. Doesn't mean that Ryan Anderson isn't going to find his way onto the field. I think you're going to see other guys get opportunities to play. But I think those are the three guys that are going to be your starters when the season gets kicked off. And throughout the course of the game, Ryan Anderson will get his fair share of snaps. I do believe that to be the case. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U. Got another super chat. This one from, let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from King of the North. Double up. King of the North. Appreciate you doubling up. Appreciate the super chat. King of the North writes, if we do manage to get one shocking upset this year, what team do you think it will most likely come against? I know this is going to sound crazy and going to sound weird, but if we were to upset a team this year, I think it comes in week 4 versus the Ravens. We just play well against the Ravens for whatever reason, man. Home, away. You remember 2016, we went to Baltimore and won. That was the game that we should have lost, where I want to say, was it? Might have been Robert Griffin III in at that time. Kirk threw an interception to C.J. Mosley, and C.J. Mosley's going in for a touchdown. He gets hit right at the goal line, fumbles the ball, it goes out of bounds. We get the ball back. Like, we should have lost that game. Will Compton, I think, had a big interception in that game. Will Compton. Man, we've come a long way. Had a big interception in that game to preserve the victory, and somehow we won like a crazy, 16-14 game. We had no business winning. I remember Chris Cooley predicting that the Ravens would fire their offensive coordinator after that game because he was so bad, and he actually got fired that Monday. I forgot, it was the Bears' ex-head coach. Forgot his name, but I can see his face. Troutman. Yeah. I forgot his first name, though. But, yeah, we won that game. And then remember 2012, the Haloti not a game, not Robert out of the game. Kirk comes in. You all remember that game. I think the last time the Ravens beat us was back in 2008. I think that was a Sunday night game, if I'm not mistaken. I remember that one. That was the you can't hurt me, I'm a machine jerk game, I think, with Ray Lewis mic'd up. And he lights up. I think that might have been 2004. Because he lit up Lavernius Coles. Lavernius Coles wasn't on the roster in 2008. So I think that was the 2004 game. You can't hurt me, I'm a machine jerk. I don't know if that was him saying that against us. I just remember him lighting up Lavernius Coles over the middle on a Sunday night. I think that was 2004. I don't remember the '08 game, now that I come to think about it. But we've played well against the Ravens. I remember that '04 game because it might have been '08. One of the two. Ed Reed strips Mark Brunell from behind, scoop and score. That got to be '04. Brunell wasn't on the roster in '08. So, yeah, that was '04. That was the night Ray Lewis lit up Lavernius Coles. And Ed Reed comes from behind with the strip on a blitz, strips Mark Brunell, scoops it up, runs in the end zone. We lose that game that night. But we played well against the Ravens. So if there was one team that nobody expected us to beat, I'd say it's the Baltimore Ravens. I don't anticipate that happening. Obviously, I gave us a loss for that game, but that would be the one that I would predict if there was a game that we didn't get, that we were able to sneak and get. That'd be the one. What says you guys? What's the team that you think we have a chance to beat that nobody will really give us a chance in 2020? Love to hear from you guys on that one. Chris Z, my man Chris Zacharias, thank you for the super chat, Chris. Greatly appreciated. Chris says, I see 8-8, but only if one or two guys step up big. 8-8 is very doable. You know, you look at that schedule, and and that's just assuming that the 6 that I've given us are the 6 that we're able to get. If you're telling me you just got to get 2 more, you could get 2 more off that schedule. Now any more than that, you're stretching it, But you could win 2 more games. You could beat Detroit, on the road. You could beat Cleveland on the road. You could beat the Giants on the road. Those are all winnable games. You're not going to beat all 3 of them. You're not going to go and win 5 games on the road. Like, Redskins aren't doing that. And I think we already got them winning, 1 or 2 games on the road. I know I got them beating the Arizona Cardinals on the road. All the rest of their wins might be at home. Eagles, Giants, and Cowboys all on home turf. And so is the Carolina game. And so is the Cincinnati game. So I got us winning 1 game on the road. Not going to win many more than that. You may sneak 1 or 2 more on the road. But the Redskins aren't going to win a bunch of road games. Even though, like I said, home and away will be of little to no consequence this year. But there's still something to be said about sleeping in your own bed, not having to travel, that sort of thing. So 8-8 definitely in it's definitely within the realm of possibility. But like you said, not only are guys going to have to step up, you're going to also probably going to have a lot of things go right for the Redskins, for sure. Let's see. Nickel 25, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. Nickel 25 writes, 6-10, I'll take it. Looks way better than 3-13. Look, at the end of the day, we were historically bad last year. I can't recall a Redskins team being this bad since the early to mid 90s when we were going through a big change. We were just coming off of the Joe Gibbs 1.0 era. We were in the midst of a ownership change as we saw Jack King Cook's health is starting to decline a little bit. We were making coaching changes. Norv Turner had finally taken over, and we were a bad team early on. We struggled. There were some years in there that were really lean, but it wasn't like last year. Last year was really bad. We were literally one of the worst teams in football. We were a joke last season. I don't, with Ron Rivera as our head coach, at no point with Rivera as our head coach do I see us approaching the levels of ineptitude that we saw last year. I don't see him even coming remotely close to that. And as I mentioned before, Jack Del Rio, Ron Rivera, those 2 by themselves are good for at least 2 additional, maybe 3 victories on top of the total we had last year. So 6-10 to me is the bottom. It's the floor for me. I think this is 6-10, 7-9, at best 8-8 team. But 6-10, like you said, I'll take it. It's not what I want, but I'll take it. It's a step in the right direction. So thank you for the super chat, Nickel 25. See if we have any more super chats. Yeah, we got a few more. Nickel 25, doubling up, double up, Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for doubling up, Nickel 25, who writes, 6-10 is fine, but it'll be good to see improvement season on season. In Rom, we trust, #HTTR. That's the goal. That's what Ron is essentially trying to tell us as fans without telling us. He doesn't want to put a time frame on the rebuild because nobody wants to actually call it a rebuild. But that's what this is. We're building this thing from the ground up. We made wholesale changes in the front office. We made wholesale changes to the coaching staff. And we've made wholesale changes to the roster. I mean, let's face it. This roster is going to have massive turnover. We signed 87 guys this offseason. Like, there's going to be some guys that we thought were going to make the roster that just aren't, you know? So it's going to be a different organization, a different coaching staff, a different team this year on the field. They're going to be way more disciplined. And I think you're going to see the product improve gradually year after year after year to where we finally get to a point where we look at this team and we feel like we're a contender going into the season. We're about a good 2 years away from that, I believe. I think next year is the first year that we shouldn't set the bar low. We should have real expectations. We should look at ourselves as a potential playoff team. I think that's the first year that we don't have lowered expectations. I think that's next year. But this year, you got to temper your expectations. It's year one. It's a shortened, abbreviated offseason. We don't know what to expect. The players really don't know what to expect. They've got to adjust to a new coaching staff and understand what these guys are asking them to do. The coaching staff has to understand what these players are capable of. Who are the guys that are going to be able to ride with them in the future? Who are the guys that they need to drop off at the bus station? They're going to figure all these things out. And by 2021, I think you've got a team that's ready to compete for something meaningful within the division. And in 2022, I think you've got a team that's ready to compete for something meaningful outside of the division. That's the way I see the timeline. If you're a Redskins fan, I think that's how you should be approaching it as well, in a realistic manner. Got another super chat. This one from Samster_Samurai. Thank you for the super chat, Samster_Samurai, who writes, in your honest opinion, do you see Haskins progressing in his second year or having a sophomore slump? I see him progressing. I think he's going to potentially come out of the gate just a little sluggish. I'm not thinking he's going to stink out of the gate. I just don't think you're going to see him firing on all cylinders right out of the gate because he's going to have a brand new offensive play caller that the play caller is going to have to adjust to Dwayne and Dwayne's going to have to adjust to the play caller. But I think give him about 3 weeks or so to get his feet wet, to get acclimated to what Scott Turner is looking for from him, and vice versa. Scott Turner realizing the strengths that Haskins has and what he's more comfortable with in terms of the playbook and the play calling. And then I think you could see, Dwayne and Scott Turner really get on the same page. And then you also have to take into consideration the Redskins have some new toys to play with. The Gandhi Man, Antonio Gandy Golden. You got Antonio Gibson. They've got some pieces to play with. If J.D. McKissick makes this roster, if Bryce Love is healthy, there's some other little toys and trinkets that they can move around and chess pieces that they can move around the board that they've got to figure out how to use and maximize. So I don't know if they're going to come out the gates swinging and swinging for the fences, but I do think Dwayne ultimately is going to play really well, and he's going to improve on his numbers, from his rookie season. 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's going to have a better than, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Dwayne's touchdown to interception ratio will be better than 2 to 1. All right. For every 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. It'll be better. It'll be a little bit better than that. So let's say he throws for 21 touchdowns. Well, he's only going to throw 9 interceptions. That's the kind of season Dwayne's going to have. You're going to feel good about Dwayne Haskins at the end of 2020. That's the way I feel. Thank you for the super chat, Samster_Samurai. Got another super chat. This one from Leo Suarez. Thank you for the super chat, Leo Suarez. Greatly appreciated. Leo writes, Redskins always had medical staff issues. Everyone's starting to get injured after a strong start every season, but under new management, this team is 9-7. Leo, that sounds great, man. And I want to be on board with 9-7. I just don't see it happening. But again, like I mentioned, 8-8 to me is as good as it gets. If they maximize the season and 8-8 is there, 9-7 is within reach at that point. But again, you're asking for absolutely everything to go right to get to 9. I mean, everything to go right. Like, we're not super talented. I listen to people talk about this roster as if it's still, one of the bottom 5 talents in the league in terms of a roster. Like, I don't buy that. You could have sold me on that last year. We weren't all that talented last year. You could have sold me on this bottom 5, bottom 10 in talent in the league roster, especially with the injuries. No Trent Williams, no Reuben Foster, John Bostic starting. And I like John Bostic, but John Bostic shouldn't be starting for you. He should be one of your backups. And you should feel good about John Bostic backing up your linebacker position, but you shouldn't feel good about John Bostic starting. I mean, you look at our roster last year going into the season, it wasn't a great roster. All right. I feel much better about the roster this year. From a talent perspective. Remember, we didn't know what we had at wide receiver last year, which it turned out to be a lot of nothing outside of Terry McLaurin. I think the roster is better at wide receiver this year. Tight end was a mess because of the injuries last year. It's a mess this year, but at least you got healthy bodies. We don't know what these guys are going to do, but last year we knew what those guys weren't going to do. All right, so I feel much better about the roster, but it's still got a ways to go. So I just don't see 9-7. With the schedule that we have, the teams that we're going to have to play, I just don't see 9-7 being what the Redskins ultimately are in 2020. But you're right. If they stay healthy, they're going to go a long way in helping the Redskins win some games that in previous years they would have lost because they just didn't have enough horses. So we'll see. I can't sign off on 9-7. I can't put my John Hancock on that. Hope you're right, though. I do hope you're right. See. Got a couple more super chats. Let's knock those out. Next one is from my man Protect Sports. Thank you for the super chat, Tones. Greatly appreciate it. My man Protect Sports writes 6-10 wins versus Detroit, Giants twice, Carolina, Pitt, and Cincinnati. So he's got us being 2-4 in the division, being swept by both the Eagles and the Cowboys yet again, which would make me want to vomit. He's got us sweeping the Giants and beating the Steelers on the road, which is very interesting. I don't see that happening, but that's very interesting that he's got us beating the Steelers on the road as well as the Lions on the road. So he's got us winning 3 road games this season. That's a lot of roadies for a team that is going to find it tough to get wins in 2020. So that's interesting from my man Protect Sports. And if you've got a schedule, I'd love to read it. Leave it in the comment section of this video. Or you could super chat it. Farrah Cody, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Farrah writes, sneak game versus the 49ers. We held them without a touchdown last year. Also, remember, that game was in a monsoon, okay? Had that game not been played in a monsoon, the 49ers would have ran for 377 yards and 9 touchdowns. So, remember, we had one of the worst rush defenses in the league last year. The 49ers ran it better than anybody in the league last season. Just keep that in mind. The Ravens were one of the best rush offenses because of Lamar Jackson and his influence, but the 49ers did it in a traditional manner, and it was just tough to stop. I remember that game was played in a monsoon. So don't use last year's game as a barometer as to why we can beat them this year. No, I don't see that happening. But thank you for the super chat, Farrah Cody. Azzy says, or thank you for the super chat, Azzy. Azzy, one or the other. My man Azzy says, week 1 is a big deal. Like Ron said, we'll learn a lot about the team. I think our fan base really lowers expectations if we lose. I really want week 1. I do too. And I think more importantly, the team is going to want week 1. They're going to want to get that for Ron. That's the entire basis of which I'm building that week 1 win around, is that they're going to go out, balls to the wall, and they're going to play with so much enthusiasm and so much will to win in that game because they want to get the first one for Rivera. They're going to want to get that one. They're going to want to be able to say in the locker room, this game ball is for Coach Rivera, his first win as the Washington Redskins head coach. We're going to see that on the Redskins YouTube page, and they're going to have a behind-the-scenes thing with Landon Collins or Jonathan Allen or one of the leaders of the team or Dwayne Haskins or somebody presenting Ron Rivera with his first ever game ball as Washington Redskins head coach, your very first win. This one's for Coach Rivera. And everybody, yeah! I could see that week 1, Redskins getting it done. So I think they're going to get it in week 1. I really do. See how I put that whole story in my head? Man, sometimes as fans, we can be delusional. But I've made up an entire story in my head of how things are going to go. And it could definitely go sideways and nothing like that. Anyway. Yem Ben Yah. Thank you for the super chat, Yem Ben Yah. Greatly appreciated. YBY writes, I think we focus more on big name players and less on scheme. Ron is a scheme fit coach and he gets the best out of no name players. We'll be okay. I think here's the thing. In this league, it's about players. It's about players. Now, if you've got a great scheme and you've got great players, all the better. But this league is all about players. Who does a better job of getting their best players in positions to make plays? If you've got a great scheme, Jay Gruden had a great scheme. He could scheme guys open. Say what you want about Jay. Jay had a hell of a pass offense. He got guys open. All right. We just didn't have quarterbacks that could deliver the football to them over the last couple of years. But even when Kirk was here, guys were open, and that's why Kirk was throwing for damn near 5,000 yards. All right. And setting all kinds of Redskins records. Why? Because Jay Gruden, we didn't have elite talent the last few years with Kirk here at the receiver position or the last couple of years after that. But, you know, of course, when we had Pierre and Deshaun, yeah, we had immense talent. Jordan Reed, all that good stuff. We had a lot of talent. But Jay could scheme it up. That's why those guys were running free and getting open and making plays. If you've got talented football players and you can scheme it up, all the better. But at this level, you want to make sure you take your best players and you put them in positions to succeed. And you need to do that with all your players, though. And that's the bigger picture. That's why the Patriots don't have a bunch of big name household players. You know what they do have? They have a coaching staff that takes those players and puts them in the best positions to succeed. They don't, it's great listening. I really think that the Giants have a potential star on their hands as a head coach in Joe Judge. I really do. I hate saying that, but Joe Judge says everything correctly. He says all the right things, and he's got the demeanor of a guy that's going to come in there and change some shit. All right. And the one thing that was very profound in listening to him talk was that he keeps saying, I don't talk about, and I don't really care about what a player can't do. Talk to me about what he can do. You know, we'll figure out what he can't do, but I want to know what he can do. You know why? Because I'm going to put him in positions to do what he can do and what he can do best. That's what coaching staffs should be all about. What does this guy do best? Whatever that is, that's what I want to make sure he's doing. You know, if he's not a coverage linebacker, okay, that's cool to know. But if you tell me, forget about him not being a coverage linebacker. If you tell me he can get after the quarterback, then let's get him after the quarterback. Then let's do that. Let's do more of that, less of the other thing. So I think we're going to see Ron put guys in a position to make plays. I do believe that to be the case, but you also have to identify what guys do best. And you got to take your best players like a Terry McLaurin or, you know, whomever that may be and put them in positions to succeed as well. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. My man, John Perez writes, I don't see us losing to the Giants, Browns, or Lions. Browns are all talk and no action type of team. Redskins win by 30 plus. Watch. I don't think the Redskins are going to beat anybody by 30 plus. I don't think we're good enough to do that right now. Sounds good. And I hear you on the Browns, Lions, and even the Giants. But the NFC East, it's a different beast. It's a different animal. As anybody will tell you about their own division, it's family business. So the Giants, whatever you think about the Giants, is still family business. Browns, I think they're going to be better than you think in 2020. And the Lions, like I said, Matthew Stafford, if they had Stafford last year, they beat us. Plain and simple. And I know Dwayne missed a bunch of throws in that game, and the outcome could have been a lot different. We could have won by a lot more. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. We didn't. All right, we barely won that football game. And if Matthew Stafford plays in that game, and I can remember their quarterback missing some throws in that game. Guys were wide open. I remember very vividly one of the first possessions after halftime, they had a guy running wide ass open for a touchdown. 2-3 yards clear of our secondary, and their quarterback overshot him. Stafford plays, they beat us last year. I think they probably beat us this year. So we'll see what happens. Chris Z, thank you for the super chat and doubling up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Chris Z, who writes, which players are going to have award/Pro Bowl seasons? I think Chase Young is going to be in the discussion for Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. May win it. We'll see. I think Dwayne could be in the discussion for Most Improved Player in the league. We'll see how that goes. And then kind of hard to say who's going to do what in terms of Pro Bowl. You know, I want to see it on the field. Come back and ask me that after like week 2, after I've gotten a chance to see some of these guys on the field. I'd like to see that, you know, see what some of these guys could do. And then I'll be able to kind of assess and maybe extrapolate that over a 16-game schedule. So we'll see what happens there. Thank you for the super chat, though, Chris Z. Greatly appreciate it. Got another super chat. This one from Ainsley Chance. Thank you for the super chat, Ainsley Chance. Greatly appreciate it. Ainsley writes, yo, Lou, I'm not biased or delusional, but in the great words of Louis T, why not us? I think we can really go 7-9 or 8-8. It could be us. Absolutely. You know, and that's not a stretch. Again, I've got us at 6-10. You win another game, you're 7-9. You win another game, you're 8-8. You know, it's a fine line in this league, and I've said this before, between 10-6 and 6-10. You know, the ball bounces your way. You manage the clock correctly. You stay healthy. You win the turnover battle. You don't beat yourself up with penalties. You could be 10-6 instead of 6-10. That's the kind of league that we play in. If the schedule isn't as daunting as we think, if the Steelers stink, if the Browns stink, if the Bengals stink, maybe instead of going 1-3 versus that division, you go 3-1 in that division. That puts you at 8-8 right there. You know, all of a sudden, what if the NFC East is down again and you jump the Cowboys and Giants early in the season and you jump the Eagles and all of a sudden you're 3-3 in the division like I have us going, or you're 4-2 in the division because you sweep the Giants in that little month stretch where you play them twice. Well, now you got a chance to be 9-7. I mean, anything can happen. You know, we don't know how good this team is going to be. We don't know how bad this team is going to be. I think a wise man once told me, nothing's as good as it seems, nothing's as bad as it seems. Somewhere in between, reality falls. I think, you know, 6-10 is where I have us. 10-6 is where a lot of you want the bar extremely high. Don't hit it and then be disappointed in Ron Rivera's first campaign. Be realistic with yourself. Set the bar at a reasonable level so that if we clear it, you feel even better about the season. If we hit it, you say, okay, that's about what I was expecting. And if we don't, then you can be disappointed, rightfully so. And so that's why 6-10 to me is a great landmark, because you hit that, you say, that's right about where I thought we could be. I think we're going to improve next year and be a much better team. If you go 7-9, 8-9, you say, wow, I was expecting 6-10 and we surpassed that. The future's bright. And if you go, you know, 4-12, then you go, man, that wasn't what I was looking towards. That wasn't what I was looking forward to. I thought we were going to be a lot better than that. And so you'd have a reason to be, you know, a little bit upset and really maybe looking to make some changes in terms of, you know, some of the guys on the roster maybe. You know, if you go 4-12 and you don't have a ton of injuries and guys just don't play well. So we'll see what happens. But why not us? To me, if you're going to say why not us, it doesn't apply to 7-9, 8-8. Why not us is 9-7, 10-6. You know, 7-9 is right around, okay, cool. 8-8 is like, hey, that's a really good year one for Ron Rivera. Why not us is like, whoa, we got a chance to make the playoffs. Why not us? That's 9-7, 10-6 territory. But I get where you're coming from, Ainsley Chance, and I greatly appreciate the super chat. See if we got any more super chats. I think we got one more. And we do. I got one more from my guy, Barrett Downing, as always, BD supporting. Thank you for the super chat, Barrett Downing, who writes, getting my work on, so thanks for being there. And no doubt, BD, as always, thank you for always supporting the movement as usual, man. Greatly appreciate that. And so, with that being the case, I thank you guys for the super chats, and I thank you guys for joining me on this Sunday afternoon. Once again, happy Mother's Day to all of the great mothers out there, past and present. We wouldn't be here without moms. Just keep that in mind. They are the heart and soul of our existence. And happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. And thank you guys for joining me on this Sunday stream. And that's the schedule. I look forward to reading your comments in the comment section. What you think the Redskins are going to do in 2020. I like this team. I actually like this schedule outside of weeks 12 through 15. I think it's a very doable schedule outside of that one stretch, which is why we were 5-5 and very much alive. And then we died. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the Redskins fare in year one of Ron Rivera. What says you guys? Leave it down in the comment section, along with a like and a sub if you're new to the channel. And also make sure you follow me on IG. Louis T Network _ is the IG. Updates and different things on the IG channel. That's how I revealed that I was coming on live, was through IG. So make sure you're following me there on Twitter as well, at Louis T Network on Twitter. Make sure you're following me there as well. I'm a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. I've got the Redskins going 6-10, 3-3 in the division, with wins over the Philadelphia Eagles at home, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Arizona Cardinals on the road, the Dallas Cowboys at home, the New York Giants at home, the Cincinnati Bengals at home, and the Carolina Panthers at home. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section of this video. What's the Redskins record? Who you got them beating? And what's the record in the division? Until next time, you guys take care. Look forward to reading your comments and chopping it up with you in the near future. Have a great rest of your weekend. And most importantly, stay safe. We'll reconvene down the road. Have a good one.
Louis T Network.